Welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast, where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and we are currently in a series about your summit speakers. Today, in episode 16, we're breaking that down to chat about how to find speakers for your online summit. We're going to cover 5 of my favorite strategies to find speakers for my own summits, and they are easy. Nothing that's going to take you a ton of time, nothing that's going to take a ton of thinking. You are going to love these. Before we dive in though, I know you're probably wondering where in your timeline you should pitch your speakers and what you need to have done before you do it. So to help, I have a free virtual summit prep timeline to map it all out for you. With this freebie, you can see the amount of time I recommend setting aside for a summit, my top tips, a look at the big picture tasks, and even a timeline calculator to make sure you plan everything right the first time. So you can get that virtual summit prep timeline by going to summithosthangout.com/timeline. So let's dive right into these tips. It might be easy to start with brainstorming your speakers and come up with like 10 to 15 pretty easily. But then you might realize that you don't know who else would be a good fit. And this is a really common struggle. It's one of the hardest parts for me during my summit is to come up with the original list of people to pitch. And it can be hard to fill those 20 or more speaker spots with quality presenters without having to do some extra digging. So today we are going to talk about 5 ways to make it easier. So you're going to start with, of course, people you already know, but do more looking into the people you already know. If you made a preliminary list off of the top of your head, take a look through your past emails, past collaborations you've done, and who you are following on social media. Then if you run into someone who you know would have great value to add, you'll add them to your list. Somewhere I really like to look is my Instagram direct messages, because when you're communicating back and forth with someone every once in a while over a period of time, it's easy to kind of miss those people at first, but you'll definitely find some hidden gems if you do that. And you can do something similar on any platform that you tend to use regularly, not just Instagram. But that's a great way to remember people you are already connected with and would love to support, and it's nice and easy to do that. The next way to find some speakers is to ask your audience. Ask them who they would like to hear from. So I like to ask my audience for suggestions in my Facebook group and on Instagram. If you have an email list, an engaged email list specifically, that's another great place to look. So ask your audience who they would love to learn from, or maybe ask what topics related to your summit they would love to hear about. And then when you get those topic ideas, you can search for experts on those specific topics. You are going to get some amazing suggestions doing this that you would have missed on your own. And the best part of this strategy is that you know your audience is interested in those people and topics. So you're not having to worry about pulling in someone who would maybe make a presentation that your audience isn't super into. And once you run your first summit, ask those people who else they want to hear from as well. So I always send a survey right after my summit is over to my attendees. I post it in my attendee Facebook group and send it to the email list. And one of the first questions on there is, who do you want to hear from next time? Because then when I start planning my next summit, I have all of those incredible ideas to pull from. And they generally pull those ideas from things they still feel like they're missing after that first round of your summit. So it's a great place to get more ideas from your existing audience. The next way to find speakers for your summit is to look at who others are following. So you are going to take a look at the social media accounts for people either in your target audience or industry experts. So look at who those people are following and you'll run into some great speaker candidates. I will say that industry experts might be the easiest way to go because they tend to be really picky about who they follow. They're not just kind of doing the follow back thing for everyone who follows them. And that means fewer people for you to sort through. And if an industry expert likes learning from someone, odds are that your audience will as well. So that's something that a lot of people don't think of, but you can really find some great options doing that. That's one of my favorite things to do to discover somebody new. Another great way to find speakers for your summit is to check out existing speaker directories. A couple of my favorites are Virtual Summit Search. So this one is specifically for finding summit speakers. Speakers submit themselves to this directory when they want to speak at summits. So it's a great place to look. And then also Events Unlocked is another place I like to go. And these are, as of recording this, currently growing directories, but they'll become more and more valuable to event hosts over time, and they're already a great place to start. So definitely check them out. I'm going to link to those in the show notes for you. And then the last way that you can do this is use a search engine. If previous methods that we talked about haven't filled your speaker list somehow, use Google and Pinterest to do a search. For the very best results using this method, search for very specific topics you want to have covered in your summit. So for example, in my last summit, I wanted someone to talk about creating goodbye packets for design clients. And I used Pinterest to search how to create a goodbye packet and came across some really amazing speaker options. So if in your search you see someone who's been interviewed on a podcast or written guest posts about the topic you're searching for, you know they're a great person to reach out to as they're open to collaborations and they clearly have some great things to say. So I know sometimes using a search engine feels like you're going to have to do too much cold pitching, but it is a great way to find people you would not have found otherwise. So using these 5 methods we talked about, you should be able to create a very solid list of potential speakers. I always start with creating a list that has double the amount of people I want to have speak. So if I'm hoping for 20 speakers, I start with a list of 40. And that lets me narrow it down to find the best options and have additional people to reach out to if someone I pitched isn't interested. I don't have to start from scratch and find someone new just because someone said no. So as another quick tip, and we are going to talk about this more in the next episode, but take time to make connections before you pitch, especially if you've never spoken to them before. So spend a couple weeks connecting with them on social media before you reach out to have a much higher likelihood of them saying yes. As you've seen, these methods aren't difficult either, so I hope these strategies really help you fill up your speaker list with way more than what you need. And your action step for today is to choose one absolutely ideal customer you have for your summit, or an influencer with a big following who has an audience similar to yours, and see who those people are following to find some new potential speakers to add to your list. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. For show notes and resources mentioned, head to summitHostHangout.com/016. I will include links to those speaker directories on there. In the next episode, like I said, we're going to chat about how to connect with potential speakers, which is really important with some of the strategies we went over today that would otherwise lead to cold pitches. So be sure to tune in for that. Giving yourself the right amount of time to plan and launch your summit is vital to creating a successful event rather than something that just looks thrown together. And as you know, when it comes to everything related to speakers, timing is everything. With my free virtual summit prep timeline, you can see the exact amount of time I recommend setting aside for a summit, my top tips, a look at the big picture tasks, and even a timeline calculator to make sure you plan everything right the first time. So get the virtual summit prep timeline by going to summitHostHangout.com/timeline. Now go out and plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online